Hi everyone, I think I'm live, but let me check to see if it's all working. Yep, I think I'm live. But the connection is not too bad on Saturday morning. Lots of people are watching TV, of course. Yep, all seems to be sharp. Well, wicked, let's get started. So make sure my camera is where I can see it. So I am starting a new story today. I've decided to start reading Ronia the Robber's Daughter, which is one of my childhood favorites. I used to love this book when I was younger. And it's a very exciting book. It's about a young girl, and her name is Ronia. And she is the daughter of a robber, and her mom is also a robber. And they live in the forest, and she grows up there, and she goes for all sorts of adventures. And the story is a little bit magical, and a tiny bit scary at times, but not very scary. And the woman who wrote it is Astrid Lindgren, and she also wrote Pippi Longstocking, and I really like her books. So yeah, I'm going to start reading this, and we're going to illustrate it together as well. So I made a little sketch just now, so to sort of decide what I'm going to draw for the first chapter. I'll tell you about what I'm sketching and what I'm drawing once I'm doing it. So don't worry too much about what's on the paper. You can just draw along with what you want to, what you want to draw or what you think, or you can just listen to the story. That's absolutely fine as well. So we're going to read the first chapter today. And what I'm going to use for the drawing are my felt tip pens, and I have some crayons here as well that I might use, but I think I'll stick with felt tip for today. So I've got some crayons here as well. And we have, I think the story has 18, maybe 20 chapters, maybe 19 chapters, so I think it will keep us busy for a couple of weeks. So every day I'm planning to read 1 or 2 chapters, depending a bit on how long they are, and each of these will be about 45 minutes, maybe an hour tops. So well, let's get started. I'll start reading chapter 1. On the night that Ronia was born, a thunderstorm was raging over the mountains. Such a storm that all the goblin folk in Matt's forest crept back in terror in their holes and hiding places. It was such a big storm. Only the fierce harpies preferred stormy weather to any other and flew shrieking and hooting around the robber's stronghold on Matt's mountain. So that was what I was going to draw. This is going to be the stormhold, the fortress, and this is a harpy. And a harpy is a type of sort of witch woman, and she has the legs of a bird, so she can fly. She doesn't have any wings, but she can fly around in the storm, and they really like stormy weather. Only the fierce harpies preferred stormy weather to any other and flew shrieking and hooting around the robber's stronghold on Matt's mountain. Their noise disturbed Lovis, who was crying within, preparing to give birth, and she said to Matt, "Drive those harpies away and let me have some quiet, otherwise I cannot hear what I'm singing." The fact was that Lovis liked to sing while she was having her baby. It made things easier, she insisted, and the baby would probably be all the jollier if it arrived on Earth to the sound of a song. Matt took his crossbow and shot off a few arrows through one of the arrow slits in the fort. "Be off with you, harpies," he shouted. "I'm going to have a baby tonight. Get that in your heads, you hags." "Ho, ho, ho, he's going to have a baby tonight," hooted the harpies. "A thunder and lightning baby. Small and ugly it will be. Ho, ho, ho." Harpies are very mean. Then Matt shot again, straight into the flock, but they simply jeered at him and flew across the treetops, hooting angrily. Well, Lovis lay there, giving birth and singing, and while Matt quelled and the wild harpies as best as he could, his robbers were sitting by the fire down in the great stone hall, eating and drinking and behaving as rowdily as harpies themselves. After all, they had to do something while they waited, and all 12 of them were waiting for what was about to happen up there in the tower room. No child had ever been born in Metsford in all the robbers' days here. Not old Pete was waiting most of all. "That robber baby had better come soon," he said. "I'm old and rickety, and my robbing days will soon be over. It would be fine to see a new robber chief here before I'm finished." He had scarcely stopped speaking when the door opened and Matt rushed in, quite wightless with delight. He raced all around the hall, running around, leaping high with joy and shrieking like a madman. "I have a child! Do you hear me? I have a child!" "What sort of child is it?" asked Noddle Pete over in his corner. "It's a robber's daughter. Joy and gladness!" shouted Matt. "A robber's daughter! Here she comes!" And over the high threshold stepped Lovis with her baby in her arms. All the robbers' noise turned off at once. "I do believe that you made your beer go down the wrong way," said Matt. He took the baby girl from Lovis and carried her around the robbers. They were all a bit in shock. They had not seen a baby before. He took the baby girl from Lovis and carried her around among the robbers. "Here, who wants to see the most beautiful child ever born in a robber's fort?" His daughter lay there in his arms, looking up at him with bright white eyes. "That child understands just about everything already, you can see that," said Matt. "What will you call her?" said Noddle Pete. "Ronia," said Lovis. "I decided that a long time ago." "And what if it had been a boy?" said Noddle Pete. Lovis gave him a calm, stern look. "If I decide my baby is to be called Ronia, it will be a Ronia." And then she turned to Matt. "Shall I take her now?" But Matt did not want to hand over his daughter. He stood there gazing in admiration at her clear eyes, her little mouth, her black tufts of hair, her helpless hands, and trembled with love. "You, baby, you are already holding my robber heart in those little hands," he said. "I don't understand it, but that's how it is." "Can I hold her for a bit?" Noddle Pete asked. And Matt laid Ronia in his arms as if she was a golden egg. "I give you the new robber's chieftain you've been talking about all this time. Don't drop her, whatever you do, or it will be your last hour." So all the robbers were sitting in the hall, next to the fire in the great castle, and the harpies are flying around and there's this big storm going on. So I think that'd be a nice drawing to make today. So I thought, if I draw the castle like this, I'll start with the castle. So I'm going to use brown for the stones. If I'm drawing the castle like this, the castle it's like a big fortress on top of the mountain. And there's 12 robbers living there. And Matt and Lovis are living there. And now Ronia as well. So there's a lot of people living there. So it's a big fortress. So I thought, if I do it like this, it could be like a peephole and you can see what's going on inside. So, and it's on top of a mountain. So these are some mountain rocks. And as you know, a fortress has many, many rooms. So you can have like a room upstairs here, and then the stairs go downstairs. And then maybe here can be the fire, where the robbers are. So I'll make a big fire here in the fireplace. And the way I draw a fire is using red. And I'll use some orange as well. I like to use the bigger part of my felt tip because they have a really small point as well, but I don't think you can really see that. And then some yellow. So I'm really going to use all these colors to make a nice fierce fire. So, and then a little bit brown for the woods that it's burning. Do you have a wood fire in your house? I don't, but I really like wood fires. I think it's very cozy. So that's the fire. And this can be the room upstairs. And then all the robbers are sitting here. So I'm going to draw the first robber. I think maybe this can be the old robber, Noble Pete. So I'm going to give him a pink face. And he's wearing lots of brown and grey, because robbers, they're always dressed in clothes that helps them disguise in the forest, I think. So he's got lots of hair and a beard as well. And he's sitting here next to the fire. They're just sitting there having a drink. So, he's got lots of long hair and a beard. I think that's what he looks like. I think he's just sitting on the floor. I think I'll just start with one now, and then maybe I'll draw some more robbers in a moment when I've read a little bit more of the story. So I think he's holding like a drink or something, or maybe a cup of soup. They're eating and drinking. So. But Noddle Pete just smiled his toothless smile at Ronia. There's no real weight to her, he said, surprised, raising and lowering her a couple of times. He was feeling her. Like, this little baby doesn't weigh anything. That made Matt angry, and he snatched his baby back. What did you expect, numbskull? A fat robber chieftain with a bulging belly and a pointy beard, eh? Of course it's a little baby. She's only just been born. Of course she doesn't weigh anything. All the robbers realized then that there must be no comments about his child if they wanted to keep Matt in a good mood. And it was really not wise to annoy him. So they set to work at once, praising and extolling about the newborn baby. They also emptied a great many tankards of beer in her honor, which made Matt happy. He threw himself down his high seat among them and showed off his remarkable child again and again. This is going to plague the life out of Borka, said Matt. He can sit here in his miserable robber's den and gnash his teeth with jealousy. Ah, death and destruction! There will be such a gnashing that all the wild harpies and grey dwarfs in Borka's wood will hold their ears, believe me. Noddle Pete nodded gleefully and said with a little snigger, Sure enough, it will plague the life out of Borka. Now Matt's line will live on, but Borka's line will be finished and done for. Yes, said Matt, finished and done for, sure as death. And as far as I know, Borka has not managed to get a child, and is not likely to get one either. Then came a crack of thunder, the like of which had never been heard in Matchwood before. It made even the robbers turn pale. And Noddle Pete fell flat on his back, weak as he was. A piteous little cry came unexpectedly from Ronia, and that took Matt worse than the thunderclap. There was this big thunderclap, because remember, there's a storm going on outside. My child's crying, he shrieked. What do we do? What do we do? But Lovis was standing by calmly. She took the baby from him and put her to her breast, and there was no more crying. That was a good crack, said Noddle Pete, when he too had calmed down a little. It will take my dying oath it struck. Yes, the lightning had struck, and in earnest too, as they saw when the morning came. The ancient fortress high up in Matt's mountain had been cleft down to the middle. From the highest battlements to the deepest vaults of the dungeons, the fortress was now split in halves, with a chasm between them. Ronia, your long life has got off to a grand start, said Lovis. So there was this big storm going on, and the lightning hit the fortress and split the fortress in half. So I think I'm going to draw the harpy here a little bit. So I'm just tracing what I drew a little bit so you can see it better. The harpy is flying around the castle, giggling and gaggling. Because, remember, they're quite mean and they're magical and they like to stir up trouble. That's what harpies do. So I'm going to draw the harpy. See, and she's got claws for feet. Other than that, she just looks like a normal person. She's got claws for feet. And her hair is all flying around in the storm. So I think I'm going to give her a black dress, because I think harpies are a bit like witches. They would wear mostly black, so I'm going to color that in. And then I'm going to make a bit of a storm in the sky as well, because it's a very, very stormy night. Maybe I can use my crayon for that. So I have a dark crayon. Got dark brown here. Maybe dark purple would be nice as well. So that's a little bit quicker than doing it with the felt tip. And because her legs are the legs of a bird, so she's got feathers on there. And then the claws of the bird's legs at the end. So. So in the background, I want there to be a little bit of a storm. So I'm going to make some stormy clouds. So I'm going to use some purple for that. So maybe some lighter purple. What color do you think the sky is when it's storming? It's very dark, isn't it? Maybe there's some blue in there as well, like a dark blue. Make sure I don't color in her hair with blue. So, and then with this big thunderclap, there's this lightning striking the castle. So I'm going to make some lightning here. Comes from here, and then goes through there. That's how you can draw lightning. Here, it's hitting the castle as well. There's big thunder and lightning going on. So. Ronia, your life has got off to a grand start, said Lovis, as he stood by the shattered wall with the baby in her arms, looking at the disaster. So the next morning they went to check what the damage was from the lightning. Matt was raging like a wild animal. How could this have been allowed to happen to his forefathers' old fortress? But Matt could not go on being angry about anything for long, and he could always find reason to take comfort. Oh well, we will not have so many twists and turns and cellar pits and rubbish to keep track of. And perhaps no one will need to get lost in Matt's fortress anymore. Do you remember when it was like, when Noddle Pete went astray and he did not turn up for 4 days? No one will get lost in the castle anymore now. Now they only have half the castle. It was struck in half by the lightning. Noddle Pete did not enjoy being reminded of this occasion. It was not his fault he got lost. He had only been trying to find out how vast and rambling Matt's fortress really was, and he had indeed found it big enough to get lost in. Poor thing, he was almost dead before he finally found his way back to the great stone hall. Thank goodness the robbers had been bowling and kicking up enough noise for him to hear them from a long way off. Otherwise he would never have found his way back. In any case, we have never used the whole fort, said Matt, and we will go on living in the hall and bedrooms and towers, where we've always lived. The only thing that annoys me is that we have lost our outhouse. Yes, death and destruction. It's on the other side of the chasm now. And I'm sorry for anyone who can't contain himself until we manage to build a new one. Do you know what that is, an outhouse? It is the toilet. The toilet is in the other side of the castle. Well, that might be a little bit of a problem, wouldn't it? If the castle is stuck in two. So, I'm just colouring in a little bit more of the sky here. So I'm using some dark purple and some blue, because I want it to look like it's a nice dark stormy night. The sort of night that when you're lying in bed and you can hear the wind outside, that it was almost like you're sleeping in a tent. I really like it when I'm lying in bed and I can hear the wind on the roof, and I find it really warm and cozy because you're warm in bed and outside there's a storm going on. That sort of night I want it to be. So they're warm and cozy inside by the fire, and outside there's this raging storm going on. So, how would you draw a storm? Maybe you've drawn it different from I have. Maybe you've made lots of clouds. Where are we? But that was soon dealt with, and life in Matt's fort went on exactly as before. Except now that there was a child there. A little child who succeeded bit by bit in sending Matt and his robbers more or less mad. In Lovis' view. Not that it hurt them, because a little gentle-handed and milder-mannered is something that they could learn from. But there should be moderation in all things. And it really was strange to see 12 robbers and 1 robber chieftain sitting there like a lot of sheep, beaming and blissfully, just because a small child had learned to crawl around the stone hall. As if there'd never been a greater miracle on earth. And it was true that Ronia scampered about, unusually fast because she had a trick of pushing off with her left foot, which the robbers thought absolutely astounding. But, after all, most children learn to crawl, as Lovis said, without loud cheers, and without their father seeing it as a reason to forget everything else, and positively neglect his work. Do you want Borka to take over all the robbing in Matt's forest as well? She asked sharply, when the robbers, with Matt at their head came storming home early, just because they had to see Ronia eating her porridge before Lovis put her into her cradle for the night. But Matt had no ears for such talk. "Ronia mine, my little pigeon," he shouted, as Ronia, shoving hard with her left foot, came shooting across the floor towards him as he walked in the door. And he sat with his little pigeon on his knee and fed her her porridge while his 12 robbers looked on. They were all sitting in a circle watching Ronia eat. The porridge bowl was standing on the earth at arm's reach, as Matt was rather clumsy with his rough robber's fist. A lot of porridge got spilled on the floor. And a lot of porridge also flew on Matt's eyebrows. The first time it happened, the robbers laughed so hard that Ronia was frightened and began to cry. But she soon realized that she had hit on something amusing to do, and did it again, which delighted the robbers more than it amused Matt. But otherwise Matt thought that everything Ronia did was incomparable and that she herself had not had an equal on earth. Even Lovis had to laugh when she saw Matt sitting there with his child on his knee and porridge on his eyebrows. "My dear Matt, who would ever think that you were the most powerful robber chieftain in the woods and mountains? If Borka saw you now, he would split his sides laughing." "I put a stop to that," Matt said calmly. Because Borka was the arch enemy, just as Borka's father and grandfather had been the arch enemies of Matt's father and grandfather. Yes, since time immemorial, the Borkas and the Mats had been at loggerheads. They had always been robbers and a terror to decent folk who had to pass with their horses and wagons through the deep forest where the robbers lurked. God help anyone whose way lies along Robbers' Walk, people said, talking of the narrow mountain pass between Borka's wood and Mats's wood. There were always robbers on the lookout there, and whether they were Borka's robbers or Matt's robbers made little difference, at least not to those who were robbed. But to Matt and Borka the difference was enormous. They fought for their lives over the booty and even robbed each other without hesitation if there were not enough merchants passing through Robbers' Walk. Ronia knew nothing of this. She was too young. She did not know that her father was a feared robber chieftain. To her, he was just kind, bearded Matt, who laughed and sang and shouted and gave her porridge, and who she loved. So we're making a drawing of little Ronia being born in the castle with the fire roaring and the storm going on. But she's really growing up fast already, isn't she? I think maybe here I'll make the bed where Lovis is sleeping in. So I'll just put some blankets here. And so she's sleeping here in the bed. Her nose is just sticking out of the covers, and she's got some black curly hair, just like Ronia does. So she's sleeping there. The robbers sitting around the fire, and because the fortress has so many alleyways and dungeons and towers, and there's so much going on, I'm going to put a few more stairs here. Just to show you how much of a maze this fortress was. Because it was really easy to get lost in, wasn't it? So you can go up the stairs here. There'd be another stairs down here. And that's why it was not such a bad thing that the fortress got split in half by the storm. Because people used to get lost in there. So, does it look a bit like a maze to you? Now, put some stones. So, the fortress is made out of these big stones that they used to make fortress out of. The stones are as big as, well, maybe as big as this, for one stone. So, So Ronia was growing up every day, and soon she began to explore the world around her. For a long time she believed that the great stone hall was the whole world, and she liked it there. She was safe sitting under the great long table, playing with pebbles and pine cones that Matt brought home for her. And the stone hall was not a bad place for a child. You could have great fun there, and you could learn a lot. Ronia liked it when the robbers sang around the fire in the evenings. She sat quietly under the table, listening until she knew all the robbers' ditties by heart. And then she joined in, her voice clear as a bell, and Matt was astonished at his matchless child who sang so well. She taught herself to dance too. If the robbers were in the mood, they would dance and leap around the room like madmen, and Ronia soon saw what to do. She danced and bounded and made robbers' leaps as well, to Matt's delight. And then afterwards, the robbers drew themselves down at a long table to slake their thirst with a tankard of beer. He bragged about his daughter. She's as beautiful as a wild harpy, I'd have you know. As subtle as dark-eyed and as black-haired. You never saw such a splendid child in your lives, I'd have you know. And the robbers nodded and agreed with him. But Ronia sat silently under the table with her pebbles and pine cones, and she saw the robbers' feet in their furry, shaggy slippers, and she pretended that they were her unruly goats. She had seen some in the goat shed where Lovis took her when she did the milking. But Ronia had seen little more than this during her short life. She knew nothing of what lay outside Matt's fort. And one fine day Matt realized, however little he liked it, that time had come. Lovis, he said to his wife, let me quickly change the battery.
So the internet's down.
Oh, seems to be fine here. So, and we're back. Lovis, he said to his wife, our child must learn what it's like living in Matt's forest. We have to let her go. Ah, so you have seen it at last, said Lovis. It would have happened long ago if I had my way. And from then on, Ronia was free to wander at will. So she was allowed to go into the forest and out of the castle. So let's do a little bit more drawing around here. So, I think some parts of these clouds I want to make a little bit darker. So. See, just like that. And I really like that purple and blue. So I'm going to make some darker shades in the sky here and there, because there's this big storm going on. What color should we give the harpy's hair? Should we give her red hair? We've not used much red yet, have we? So Ronia is growing up between all those robbers, and they're really nice to her, but she doesn't realize that her father is a robber. She doesn't know that they live off robbery. She's just growing up as any other child, but she's growing up in this fortress, playing and sitting under the table and listening to all the songs and dancing in the evening and singing, and she's just learning all the things that normal kids will learn as well. So, shall I zoom in a little bit more so you can see what I'm doing? See, I'm making it really colorful and dark outside, and then inside I want it to be warm and cozy. And talking about warm and cozy, maybe I should put a little bit of yellow around the fire for the light that's shining off it. Because when you have a fire, there's really nice warm light shines off it, doesn't it? Even if it's cold and miserable outside, inside is nice and warm and cozy. So, and the fortress is built high on top of this rock, on top of the mountain. So the robbers can look around and they can see everyone coming and they can see travelers coming. So So Ronia was allowed to free and wander at will. But first Matt had one or two things to say to her. Watch out for wild harpies and grey dwarfs and Borka's robbers, he said. How will I know what are wild harpies and grey dwarfs and Borka robbers? Asked Ronia. You'll find out, Matt said. All right, said Ronia. And watch out you don't get lost in the forest, said Matt. What do I do if I get lost in the forest? Said Ronia. You have to find the right path, said Matt. Ah, all right, said Ronia. And watch out you don't fall in the river, Matt said. What shall I do if I fall in the river? Ronia asked. You have to swim, said Matt. Ah, all right, said Ronia. And watch out you don't tumble into Hell's Gap, Matt said. He meant the chasm that split Matt's fortress into two. Do you remember where the lightning hit, where the fortress was split into two? What shall I do if I tumble into Hell's Gap? Ronia asked. You won't do anything else, Matt said, and then he gave a bellow as if all things evenly had suddenly pierced his heart. All right, said Ronia, when Matt had finished bellowing. I will not fall into Hell's Gap. Is there anything else? There certainly is, said Matt, but you'll find out bit by bit. Go on now, go outside. So that was the end of chapter 1. And in chapter 2, Ronia is going exploring the forest. So, is there something that we need to add to the castle? Maybe we should make the stones a little bit brown. So, I'm adding a little bit of color to the walls, but not everywhere, just in places to give it a little bit of shadow. So. And if you would like to do more drawing with me, before we started reading this book, I was reading Narnia, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. And all those videos are still on my website as well, so you can watch them back and draw along. If you want to make more drawings, you can find lots of extra videos on there. And there's also some of my videos on YouTube, so you can also watch them there if you like using YouTube. So, what do you think? I like it better with a little bit more color in it. So, a bit more darker here. So, I hope you like this story. Ronia is going to have all sorts of adventures in the forest. Because you can imagine living with 12 robbers and a robber chieftain and her mum is quite adventurous, isn't it? And then this forest have lots of little creatures living in it. So there's harpies, like what we've just drawn here. And the harpies are quite dangerous and a little bit scary. And there's dwarves and there's lots of other creatures in the forest that she's going to meet at some point. So, I think we're almost done. Well, next chapter, chapter 2, Ronia is going to explore the forest. So I'm going to read you more about that on Monday, because tomorrow I'm having a day off. So I'll read you more about that on Monday. And well, I hope you enjoyed it. And I'd really like to see the pictures that you've been drawing. And yes, if you'd like to share a picture of your drawing with me, just ask your mum to take a photo, or ask your mum to email it to me, or to send it to me on social media. And then, because I would really love to see it. I'd like to know if you enjoyed joining me, and I'd like to know if you had a good time. And then, if you have any other books that you'd like me to read at some point, because this book is not so thick. So if you have any other books you'd like me to read at some point, I can always take some recommendations as well. So I hope you have a really lovely weekend. It's nice and sunny outside. So I hope you get a chance to enjoy the sun a little bit. And I will see each other on Monday. Bye bye!